Evening, everybody. Welcome to the Lead with Giants TV here. My name is Tal Schnell. I'm your host this evening. On the program, we have John Stoker, the author of Overcoming Fake Talk, How to Hold Real Conversations That Create Respect, Build Relationships, and Gets Results. It's an awesome communication book, and I'm a big communication geek, so that just right up my alley. But let's go around the room, introduce everybody here, and let's start with Liz Sally.
Hi, I'm Liz, and I'm hanging out tonight from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Great to have you on the program.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan Forbes, founder of the Lead with Giants community, hanging out from Sarasota, Florida. Good to be here.
Great to have you. We haven't had you in a while. It's great to see you again, and we're delighted to have you here joining us as well. And last but not least, John.
Hi everybody. Glad to be here.
Great. John, he's also the founder and president of Dialogue Works, and I want to ask you first of all is define for us what is fake talk and how fake talk prevents leaders from achieving organizational success at their company. It could be a community or whatever it is. How does define for us first of all what that means?
All right. Fake talk, I would say, is any conversation that a person will hold and doesn't get the results that you want. And unfortunately, I mean, how often have we all held a conversation with a friend, a companion, a spouse, a direct report, even a coworker? We think we've handled things, and then we only find out after the fact that they weren't handled. And so that's usually how we find out that we've engaged in fake talk. So fake talk would be any conversation, whether it's intentional or unintentional, where we communicate, we think we have a goal, we think we're going to accomplish that goal, and then we don't. And unfortunately, relationships and respect feed into that. And so not only is it conversation where we don't achieve results, but the relationship usually isn't built or improved, and the quality of the respect that we experience with that person isn't created either. So that would be kind of my definition of fake talk. So you asked, the second question was, how does that impact leaders? Well, simply put, if a leader is giving direction and no one's doing what's asked, then there's all kinds of rework that has to take place. People get frustrated with one another. The leader kind of wants to know where things fell apart and often ends up blaming people, which damages the relationship and the respect, which doesn't go a long way to helping results either. So I would just say that if leaders are not engaging in what we call real conversation, then it diminishes their effectiveness on a number of different fields, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and really when we're thinking about your conversational model, REAL, which is an acronym, share with our audience a little bit about briefly what that means as well.
Okay, so REAL is kind of a double-sided coin. It's really an acronym, as Tal said, for 4 skills that are present in all effective communication. And the R stands for recognize and suspend. So that deals with your thinking. If you wanted to make it really simple, are you open to different perspectives other than your own? Express is kind of how we talk, and that's a challenge because oftentimes people who are passionate or who are easily excitable will express themselves in such a way that it literally creates defensiveness in others, even when they don't really intend to. A is for ask. Do you go out of your way to ask questions to seek understanding from people? And L, even though there's an L, there's 2 kind of skills from our perspective. There's listening and attending. So we listen with our ears and we attend with the rest of us. And so we call those the real skills, if you will. And so that's what real is. So we believe that if you engage in a real conversation, you are using those skills to do exactly what we just talked about: achieve results, build relationships, and create respect. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to give a couple more people here an opportunity to participate as well.
So, hey John, good to see you.
Hey Dan.
Thanks for the guest post on leadwithgiants.com. I appreciate that. So if fake talk is a conversation which I'm not getting the results that I want, is it always my fault? Can it be the listener's fault and the way it's received, or do I have to take 100% responsibility at all times?
Well, you know, what's interesting when we're often training people, people will say, "Oh yeah, this stuff works great if everybody's had the training,"
Right.
which is a typical response. And I often say, you know, you're kind of, you know, I guess what, absolving yourself of responsibility. Obviously, I can't make you engage in real conversations, but if I have the skills and I know how to use those skills, I would say that I can increase the likelihood of holding a conversation with you that'll end up being real, whether you're skilled or not. Um, that's been my experience. So, you know, I've been using it on people forever, and they haven't attended my training. And so I would say I would focus on myself and not worry about everybody else. So if you know what the skills are and you know what you want and you know how to use them, you can use those to create the types of conversations that you want to hold. So I guess the short answer is you can't blame it on them. You got to take responsibility yourself, right, to create what you want for yourself.
Yeah, and having read the book, I knew that was going to be your answer. I just wanted to double check that. But yeah, I mean, if I know that I've got to be responsible not only for what comes out of my mouth and how it comes out of my mouth, how I'm communicating, but I also have to take responsibility to be clear that you are receiving what I am
Absolutely.
communicating in the way that I'm communicating. You're receiving the message, then yeah, I'm really going to be careful and take more effort. And one of the things I like about your book is it's so practical and gives some great tools and ideas for how we could do that. We really have no place to hide. So, dadgummit.
Dadgummit. So, Tal would put it this way: if I'm a good leader, I might say, well, Dan, I need you to do this by 4 o'clock. Now, that's where most leaders stop. But a good leader would say, can you do it? Is there something that'll get in the way? And then I'm going to watch what you do, right? And you go, no, I don't think so. I'm not buying that. So I might say, Dan, the way you hesitated right there leads me to think that something else is going on. Tell me what's going on. Do you have something on your plate? Is there something you think will get in the way? And then I'm going to explore that so that when I walk away and you've committed to me that you're going to have it by 4, that I know you'll have it by 4. And if there's something I need to do to help you or to support you, I've discovered that because what have I done? I've noticed what you're doing. I'm attending to you. I'm asking questions to try to understand what's going on with you. And I'm open to your answers, and I'm just not going to walk away saying I need this and assume that you're going to give it to me.
I want to kind of piggyback before Liz, I know she has a question, but just quickly piggyback on this conversation is that a lot of executives are very action-based or biased, if I should say, is you get emails that I want this by 4 o'clock, I want this by Friday, and there's not much room for a dialogue as we would like it to have with our sometimes superiors. We expect that. How do you handle that from a perspective of this person seems to care about the deliverables, executing whatever the goals are, but they're not really interested about me? How do you handle that?
Well, I just wrote an article on what everybody wishes their boss really knew. and you kind of tagged that. So one of the things that from the research I did that came up is I wish my boss would quit making commitments for me without talking to me first when I know that given everything else on my plate and the priority that's been identified, there's no way I can get that by then.
Right.
And so if that had just happened to me and you said you needed it by 4, I'm going to push back. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm going to say I'm happy to do that. But given what you gave me to do today, by tomorrow, you need to help me understand what the priorities need to be. And so now what I'm doing is I'm pushing it back to them to think about, because my experience has been is most of the time they don't think about it. It's just that I've got Tal, he's on my team, he's a great worker, here's all the things I need him to do. And they don't stop. They just want to hand it to you and expect you to do it. So, on the flip side of that, I think that oftentimes people are afraid to say, I can't do this. But then what happens? They kind of go, okay. The boss doesn't pick up that the okay really means not quite so sure I can get that done. And then the employee can't get it done for whatever reason, and then the heads roll, and the employee's upset. I thought you said we'd get this, I'd have this. And in reality, in essence, the employee may actually help to create the very situation that they don't want to be in because they couldn't converse and talk about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. It sounds like more of a candor and honesty and trust needed to be established into that conversation rather than just get it done. I don't care what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, if I work for you, I got to say, look, I'm happy to do what you want me to do. But there's some parameters here we better explore if you're really expecting me to get this to you in the time frame that you want. And I got to be honest about that, and I need to be willing to talk about it.
Gotcha.
John, do you find that people often use fake talk as a way to avoid conflict?
Yep. And from research that 80% of most folks will avoid conflict like the plague. So they'll go along to get along, they'll agree when they don't agree, or they'll say nothing to avoid conflict. And so
I agree with that.
silence, from my perspective, is fake talk. All those things I just mentioned, or those strategies that people engage in, are examples of fake talk.
So what not's being said is as important as what is being said.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, you're watching, and of course, if you guys read the book, you know that one of the things I really loved is we came up with a number. What is that? We process information at 850 words a minute, but only speak at 150 words a minute. So if you do the math, then what do you think's going on with the other 700 words? It's coming out in things that people do with their hands, with their body, with their face, with their tone of voice. And so if you attend to what's kind of happening in the moment and listen to what they're saying, they'll tell you they can't or they don't agree. And then you'll have to draw them out and get them to openly disagree so you can have the conversation. But I totally agree with what you said, Liz.
That's great. Why don't we pause here? This was a great segment one for us. We kind of dived into a really kind of a touchy subject about the boss sending us an email and want us to get it done by 4 o'clock, but it's good conversation there. So we'll stop here for our first segment, and then we'll do a second segment, so stay tuned.